Hi, Diane. There, that's better.
Hello.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Rabbi.
We're welcoming everyone in. I'm just gonna, one of the great powers before I turn it over to Nancy to start the meeting is that I have the ability to mute Beth Man, what a dream that I've always wanted. So if we put you on mute, it's nothing personal, I promise. It's just a way to help us help control the meeting. We'll be sure to answer everyone's questions. But as you know, if you've been on these, this is just a way to prevent background noise. People are still joining, so hold tight for another minute or 90 seconds, and we'll be sure to begin. So, but I am going to mute everyone now, and we are also going to record this just because we know that there were some people who emailed saying they really were interested, but the timing didn't work out. Maybe they had 3 kids and, you know, that they had to put to sleep. I don't know who would do that. So.
Didn't stop you.
All right, people are still joining. We'll give it one more minute. Thanks so much for giving us some of your Thursday evening. I know the NBA started tonight, so it must have been hard to pull at least some of you away from watching sports. Man, is that a good sign or something? So, all right, Nancy, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is the first meeting of Beth Am's nonpartisan 2020 civic engagement campaign, Every Vote and Every Voice. It's part of the Reformed Jewish Religious Action Center effort to encourage all US citizens to vote. And it's being led by our very own Pursue Justice Steering Committee. And I wanted to introduce people who are co-chairing this event. Maybe they can wave. Diane Rolfe and Rabbi Prosnet, Michaelia Hellman-Tincher, Nancy Kivayonis, and me. So thank you very much for joining us. We know that many people at Beth Am have already been doing a lot of work on nonpartisan voter registration efforts, and we're hoping to expand this effort to reach the entire congregation. Now we're going to start tonight with an action. Beth Am would like to be a 100% voting congregation, and that means everybody needs to be registered to vote. So the first thing we're going to do is put a link in the chat, and we'd like you to get your driver's license number and click on the link and go to the California Secretary of State website, and you put in your information, your name and your birth date, and some digits from the end of your Social Security, and click next, and they'll verify that you're registered. So please click the link in the chat. It'll take all of 2 minutes. And after you've verified your registration, come back and put in the chat and tell everybody that you're a registered voter. So while you're doing this, I'm going to remind you that everyone's going to be mailed a ballot this year per Governor Newsom's executive order. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. There'll still be voting centers. Okay, Alan's our first registered voter. Thank you, Alan. Joanne checked yesterday. Excellent. Michelle's registered. Linda's registered. Rabbi Prosnet's registered. I checked yesterday to make sure that the link worked, so I'm registered. Audrey's registered. Excellent. If anybody's having trouble, send us a message. We'll see if we could help. Ellen's registered. Lori's registered. Excellent. Because we'd love to be a 100% voting congregation. That's one of the goals from the Reformed Jewish congregations. Norma's registered. Irene, hopefully everybody's finding this really easy. Ellen wants to know if we'll ask every congregant to check it. We could put that on the website. Good idea, Alan. Thanks. Adam's registered. Nancy's registered. Excellent. Michaelia's registered. Carol, Ellen are registered. Excellent to see all these registered voters. Great. Susie, Eden's registered. She's registered multiple people. Yay. Excellent. So this is good. All right, while we're finishing up with the registration, why don't we move to the next section? Rabbi John's going to introduce some special guests.
Well, it's awesome that so many people are registering or double checking that their registration. California has same-day registration this year, so tell your friends and neighbors how wonderful it is that we can limit all the barriers to the ballot. We'd like to start some of our programs. So some of you who have been part of the Beth Am Community Organizing Network know that we like to start some of our programs with some storytelling. So we've invited two of our Beth Am members just to share a few thoughts about their own participation in democracy. And we'll make sure other people have a chance to share. But we're going to ask first one of our high schoolers, a soon-to-be 11th grader at Menlo Atherton High School, and a recent confirmand in the Beth Am confirmation class, Jacob, who is also who's signing on now because he's off to a Batty Beth Am Temple youth meeting in about 20 minutes. So Jacob's got his Beth Am hands full tonight, but Jacob, will turn it over to you to kick off a bit of our storytelling.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the RAC and specifically the Litaken trip that we went on. And so that was all of confirmation this year went on it. There are teens from across the country, and it's basically a peek into democracy and how the government works. And then by the end of the weekend on Monday, you go and lobby to your representative. So most of us lobbied to Representative Eshoo, and they keep it nonpartisan. They give us Jewish values to work with, and we basically write speeches to them, to our representatives, talking about why it matters to us, why this issue matters to the Jewish people, and then giving them a call to action to support X or Y bill. And I know that I found that super powerful, and a lot of my fellow students found that very powerful, and we all really enjoyed the trip. And now, continuing that, we're bringing this postcard drive to Batty, and as the teen group, we're going to try and also chip in, as even though we can't legally vote yet, we can still make a difference by sending postcards. And so we're going to try and do that and influence democracy as best we can.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. What an amazing commitment to certainly the next generation is in good hands with people like you and the other Battyites leading it. Just to clarify, so this was a trip that Beth Am sponsors each year to Washington, D.C. to go through the halls of Congress with the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism. I know some of you know many people that have been on that, and Jacob was one of our leaders on that last year. So thank you so much, Jacob, and thanks for making the commitment to Beth Am Temple Youth as well. We really appreciate all your hard work. Our second story, we're going to invite Norma Etten to share a little bit about her experiences with democracy. So we'll ask Norma to unmute herself and share with our community now as well.
Thank you, Rabbi. You know, many people mark their lives by certain dates filled with love and joy, exciting dates. For me, like the birth of my grandchildren and children. Those were 4. And then there's a 5th date that marks an important spot in my life, and that's the date of the birth of democracy in my country of birth, South Africa. Unfortunately, I had to wait till nearly 50 years until that day came around. So we were permanent residents of the United States, waiting anxiously to become citizens. And we were seeking citizenship, as I say, but we were still citizens of South Africa. So in May 1994, I drove to the consulate in Manhattan with my daughter. We were very excited. We were going to cast our first votes ever in a democracy. It was the first democratic election in South Africa. We stood in line with fellow citizens from all corners, including many Black people and many people of color and brown people. And someone mentioned to me earlier today, I should stress to those who haven't studied the history that South Africans, only white men initially were allowed to vote. And in the mid-30s, white women also. But that was it. Everybody else was disenfranchised. Well, they never even had the vote. So I'm going to stretch out my arm because I'm excited about this. I'm going to have the clenched fist and I'm going to say Amandla, which means power. And I want those of you, even though you're muted, to say Awetu, which means to us. Power, Amandla, Awetu, to us. And it would be remiss of me not to mention probably one of the most important freedom fighters and anti-apartheid workers. She was a Jewish woman. Her name was Helen Sussman, and she was a member of the parliament. She served there for 36 years. And for 13 years, she was the sole voice, only Helen, of opposition to the government. And for 6 years, she was the only woman. So I bet you Helen also cried tears of joy the day democracy was declared in South Africa, thanks to the efforts mainly of Nelson Mandela. So I think my time is up, and thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thanks, Norma. That was great. Thanks, Jacob. Now Rabbi John's going to lead us in a study.
Thanks, everyone. This is not a euphemism, but I have a naked 5-year-old running around near me. If he shows up on the screen, that's just what it is. So I just want to thank Jacob and Norma. So powerful to hear about Norma, about the story you tell about going to the consulate with your daughter. What an amazing moment. And then Jacob, all of the promise that you hold as one of the keepers of this future, and to recognize that as Democrats with a lowercase d and as Republicans with a lowercase r, that we can embrace both of your stories and we can use them in our work. I'm going to share my screen for a second because I wanted to frame a little bit about what we're doing with a very short text study. And then we'll dive into some sort of a little bit of the meat of what we hope to do. And we'll have some opportunity to share as well. So I'm going to share my screen briefly. And what I wanted to do is look at a biblical figure called Bezalel. And Bezalel is sort of a little bit of a minor character in the Bible, but appears in the book of Exodus. Give me a thumbs up if you know who Bezalel is, or if you've heard of Bezalel before. And if you haven't, I see Sherry with her hand, with her thumbs up, Lisa with a thumbs up. A couple people are like, Bezalel, I've never heard of that person before. That's cool. Alan with a thumbs up. Well, Bezalel is the chief artisan of the Jewish people. And some of you might know this if you've been to Israel. You've been to the Bezalel Arts Academy in Jerusalem, the premier art school in Israel. But I wanted to look about where we first, or not first, but one of the places we encounter Bezalel. And I'm going to read it just for the sake of time and for people's eyes as well. So this is from the book
Rabbi
of
Jonathan, can you put it on presentation mode so we're seeing your whole screen, not just this?
Yeah, how about that?
Thank you.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Lisa. Exodus 35. So, Lisa, will you read for us?
And Moses said to the Israelites, "See, the Adonai has singled out by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. God has endowed him with a divine spirit of skill, ability, and knowledge in every kind of craft, and has inspired him to make designs for work in gold, silver, and copper, to cut stones for settings, and to carve wood, to work in every kind of designer's craft, and to give directions. He and Oholiab, son of Ahimaach of the tribe of Dan, have been endowed with the skill to do any work of the carver, the designer, the embroiderer in blue, purple, crimson yarns, and in fine linen, and of the weaver as workers in all crafts, and of makers of designs."
Thanks, Lisa. So you might be saying, why on earth did Rabbi John, if this was a session on art, I understand why he would show this. Or if this was a session on the creating of the tabernacle, I would understand why he showed it. But why on earth does this have to do with voting? Anyone saying that? All right, maybe like you're with me for now, but you're thinking that way. And so what I wanted to do is take this piece from the book of Exodus and look at it from a Talmudic sense. And so the rabbis comment on this very first piece where we meet Bezalel. And Moses says to the Israelites, "See, Adonai has singled out by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah." So the Talmud in Brachot goes deeper about why did Bezalel get appointed the leader of the people. And this Talmud says, with regard to Bezalel's appointment, Rabbi Yitzhak said, one may only appoint a leader over a community if he consults with the community, and they agree to the appointment. As it is stated, and this is the verse we just looked at, and Moses said unto the children of Israel, see, Adonai has called by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. God said to Moses, Moses, is Bezalel a suitable appointment in your eyes? And Moses said to him, Master of the universe, if he is a suitable appointment in your eyes. And I just love this section. And I love this part of Talmud because I love this place here by Rabbi Yitzhak, that one may only appoint a leader over a community if he consults with the community. So I just love that as a frame, that though even deep in our text, there's this idea of the responsibility to consult with community. And on some level, that's what we're doing. In some way, that's what the great action of democracy is. It is the consulting of community. And as Jews in 21st century America, where I truly believe we've never been freer and we've never had more access, it's incumbent on us to be part of our community. And it's incumbent on us to work together to be the shepherds of the community. And so all of us have the honor of being the ones that assume the appointment of Bezalel, or whoever the leaders of our sacred community might be. So as a frame of Torah, I'll turn it back to Nancy, who's going to give us a little bit more instructions.
Unmute. Thanks, Rabbi. We're going to try something very techy here. If my technical whizzes give me the thumbs up, we're going to try breakout sessions. So put on your seatbelts. We're going to have a short, small group discussion. You'll be divided up randomly. You should see a space on your screen that says enter a breakout room. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, the short session, you'll be automatically back with all of us. In these discussions, I ask you please to remember that we're a holy community. This is a nonpartisan action, and we want to treat each other with respect at all times. And I'm going to give you 2 questions you can discuss. The first is, why did you come to this meeting? And the second is, why is voting important to you? So you'll have 10 minutes, as Linda Richmond from Saturday Night Live would famously say, talk among yourselves. Okay, hit it. Yay, so everybody should see the host is inviting you. So hit join breakout room.
And Nancy, maybe you can put those questions in the chat.
Oh, excellent. All right, so I'll go join a chat, or should I stay here with you?
Yeah, you want to join one?
I can hear what's going on.
Yeah, join it. Join one. That sounds great.
Welcome back. Guess people are just coming back. Feel free to put in the chat any insight you had in your session or anything you learned or hoped for. Welcome back to everyone. I hope you enjoyed the connection with other Bethel members and get a chance to participate. What we're going to do now is Nancy and Diane are going to talk about the specific action that we're hoping to organize at the temple. So if they would unmute, they can take it away. Oh, I'm sorry, not Nancy. Michaelia, sorry.
We all are a team.
Oh, here she is. Hi,
I'm
you're
here.
back.
So, you know, we all just spoke a lot about why voting is important and why our democracy is precious. But we also all know that there are people in our country whose votes are being systematically suppressed. And that means that millions of voters are not able to cast their ballot. And I know a lot of you have learned about this and studied this, but just to go over some of the modern forms of voter suppression that exist in our country today. In some places, they purge inactive voters, people who haven't voted recently, without their knowledge, and then they can't vote on election day and they're surprised. There are confusing, complicated, restrictive, and non-publicized methods to request a vote by mail ballot, which is extremely important during COVID times. There are confusing, restrictive, and unpublicized rules around voter ID. There are closures and understaffing of polling places, which have led to those really, really long lines to vote that we've all seen on TV. And then there's also more subtle suppression tactics, like just expressing doubt over the veracity election, campaigns not reaching out to infrequent voters. So campaigns only reach out to people that they know are frequent voters, and then people are left out. And pretty much all of these tactics disproportionately suppress the votes of Black, Latinx, rural, and senior voters. And it's just not fair, and it means that we don't really have a real democracy if this keeps happening. And so the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism's campaign that we've been referencing tonight has partnered with the Center for Common Ground's Reclaim Our Vote effort. And Reclaim Our Vote formed in 2018 to work against voter suppression. And this year, their goal is to get a 20% increase in voter turnout among voters of color. And so they've asked for a lot of partners. They have a lot of faith partners. They have a lot of other organizations that they're working with, and the Reformed Jewish community has signed on to help. And at the state level, they work with state level partners that really understand who's being suppressed. So a lot of times those are NAACP chapters. And they reach out to them to make sure that they are registered, they know how to access vote by mail ballots if that's appropriate, and they know how to vote this season. It's entirely nonpartisan, and it's focused on states where voter suppression is common. So a lot of states in the South, actually. And so we have, as a congregation, committed to help in this effort. And one of the most accessible and frankly fun ways to do it is to send postcards to these voters with the information that they asked for. And I think a lot of people on this call actually have already started doing this. So if you are already sending postcards to voters who may be suppressed by Reclaim and have been identified by Reclaim Our Vote, put your name in the chat box. Tell us that you're already sending postcards. Let's see how many people are doing it. Nice. So Nancy, Irene, Nancy F has sent 30, Dorothy, Sherry, Diane, Michelle. It's a lot of women. Let's get a man saying he's sent postcards. There's Ron's ordered postcards, Frosty, Diane Stadlin. Lisa signed up last night. I ordered my postcards Sunday. Jean, Norma Joy. Okay, well, we've got a lot of people already doing this. So if you are not yet doing it, you are joining a wonderful community. And what we're going to do next is Nancy C. is going to show us just how easy it is to order the postcards and to get them ready to send so that we as a congregation can start amping it up. And we're gonna break some records.
Thank you, Michaela. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link into the chat box to a Google Doc that has lots of resources, and one of them is the link. You'll find the link to order your postcards. So I'm going to put that into the chat right now. All right, and then I'm going to talk about the nitty-gritty of the postcarding. So first, the first thing to know is that there are several different ways to get the postcards. You can order them from Rack, or you could just go out and get your own postcards. You can use plain white postcards from Office Depot. There are no rules about what kind of postcards you use as long as they are non-partisan. And I'll go over some other guidelines in a second. So if you order your postcards from Rack, they're gonna look like this. They'll have like the graphic on the front, vote for our lives. And then on the back, Rack will give you this Avery label that has a call to action on it, and it is different for every state. So in my case, thank you, Tim. In my case, I'm doing North Carolina. So I have a specific script to follow, and I'm gonna go over that. And then you'll see that I kind of embellished it with colored marker, and it's very simple. So Rack will send you, each postcard kit has 30 postcards. They will send you a sheet of 30 Avery labels that have the call to action on it. They will send you a list of 30 addresses, and they will send you a script that tells you exactly what to write. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we will go over what you need to do when you, yes, Rack is making it very easy, what you need to do in order to write a postcard correctly. So let me go here. Okay. All right. So how to write a well-written, non-partisan postcard. The biggest thing to remember is to follow the script. Follow the script. All right. So first, your handwriting should be neat and legible. All right, no scribbling. No, I mean, I love my kids, but I am not letting them help me write the postcards. They help me put the labels on. They help me doodle on them, but they do not help me write the actual postcard. All right, your postcard should be bright and positive. That means using exclamation points, using bright colors, you know, putting emphasis where you think there needs to be emphasis. Sometimes I underline. I don't know if you can see that. I underline words. I use exclamation points. So keep it upbeat, even though you're sticking to a script. All right. Again, stick to the script. Stick to that script. It's very important because this is because when you send the postcards, you are representing another organization. So in my case, I am representing the North Carolina NAACP. And it says that on my postcard. So if I violated any of the guidelines, the NAACP would get into trouble. So we're gonna talk more about that. All right, you use the Avery labels that are provided if you order through Rack. If you don't order through Rack, you can print them out onto your own Avery labels. You can handwrite them, whatever. But you want to make sure that you are writing down the call to action accurately. It has a link on it. Make sure if you are handwriting it that you write the link correctly. You can embellish with color and use abstract symbols and doodles. I like to use arrows pointing to the call to action. All right, this is the big part. You want to avoid any kind of political imagery. No mention of any presidents, no mention of any politician, no slogans, none of that. Keep it nonpartisan. Avoid flag imagery and dog imagery. Avoid the colors red and blue. And do not use any stickers except for the AV label provided, because the stickers get jammed in the machine at the post office. So if anybody has questions about this list, you can pop them into the chat and I can answer them. You will get salutation guidelines. So you want to make sure you read the script carefully, because it will give you information about whether or not you should address somebody by their first name, Mr. or Mrs. In a lot of southern states, every single card has to be addressed Mr. or Mrs. In North Carolina, people with a Spanish last name are addressed as Mr. and Mrs. or Ms. And in all other cases, you just use their first name. But you want to make sure you read it carefully. And they will also give you guidelines about what to do if the gender is not specified on the sheet of addresses. All right, double check the address and make sure you leave space at the bottom for the label. So like the post office scanning label thing usually goes right here. So you want to make sure you leave some white space at the bottom. And don't procrastinate, get your postcards in the mail, because they are time sensitive. Rack, everybody might have different deadlines. My deadline currently is 2 weeks. So when I get a kit, I have 2 weeks to get them all written, addressed, and mailed out. You might have more time sensitive deadlines. Finally, we have a goal of sending 5,781 postcards by 5781. So we are going to keep a tally. Everybody who signs up and commits to postcarding will get an email every week with a very simple Google form to enter the number of postcards that you mailed. And we will tabulate them, and then hopefully we will meet our goal by the high holidays. Okay, and that is it. So let's see if we have any questions, because I can't see them while I'm sharing. Okay.
So if you can raise your hand, either virtually or physically, if you have any questions, and Nancy or I will monitor that. For the time being, we'll have specific questions about the postcarding. If you have broader questions about Beth Am engagement, we'll ask you to hold those just for a minute towards the end. So. Any questions?
Could you give the rack address?
I see
So
Susie.
Kim points out.
We'll call. It would be easier if we just call on you. So just raise your hand and we'll call on you. I see Susie, then Toby, then Lori.
So I know that some of these postcard writing efforts send the postcards back to somebody in the state so that they have local postmarks. Is that part of this, or we just stick them in the mail?
These you just stick in the mail.
Okay.
Toby, then Lori, then Jean.
Could you give the rack address to order the postcards? I didn't get that.
So I'll answer that one. Toby, we'll send out an email in the next day or two with all of these links so that you'll have all of them. And Michaela just put them in the chat again. Thanks, Toby.
Okay.
Lori, then Jean, then Rick.
I'm okay. No questions.
Okay, Jean, then Rick, then is that Martin with the hand up?
Okay, I've been instructed and have been printing all of the postcards. Been instructed that under several different sort of organizations, but it's Reclaim Our Vote. And that was not mentioned. You said to be legible. And so can you please clarify that?
Nancy C., can you clarify that?
I'm sorry, Jean, I missed the question.
I think the question is cursive or print, and I think you're right, Jean. Print is better.
Yeah, I think print would be more legible.
Thanks, Jean.
Thanks, Natalia.
Rick, and then Martin, and then Alan.
How are these cards ordered?
Nancy C., can you answer that one?
I couldn't hear.
How are the cards ordered?
How do we order the cards? Is that one of the links?
The cards come in the, if you order the kit from the rack, the cards come as part of the kit. That's the advantage. If you go through Reclaim Our Vote directly, which you can do, and if you do, please, there's a part in the registration form where they ask what organization you're part of. Please be sure on the drop-down menu to click that you're part of the Religious Action Center. If you get it directly from Reclaim Our Vote, you have to, in effect, put together your kit. You have to get the postcards, you have to get the stamps, you have to print your own Avery labels. They just give you the addresses and the script. But the rack does all this for you. It puts everything together and a blessing, you can say when you start it. So it may be a good way to start the first time till you feel comfortable, you know, the process, and then you can decide after that how you want to proceed.
Thanks, Rick. Oh, go ahead.
So my question is what, we understand the red and blue and elephant and so forth. Out of curiosity, what is the specific concern with dogs or maybe pet-like things?
I think that's from some of the civil rights movement where the police would have dogs that they would sick on some of the marchers down south. Like there might even been dogs on the Edmund Pettus Bridge incident.
Awesome. Thanks. So we had, that was Martin. So Alan, then Adam, then Joanne.
So my question with 5781 being a math person or an analytic person, about how many people are we trying to, or turning it around, the combination of the people we're trying to recruit, how many postcards should I, to do my part, would I be expected to do my part?
So Alan,
hold
I have
off
an
on that,
answer.
Alan. Hold off on that one, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we'll make sure we answer that. So we want you to write 5,780 yourself. All right,
I've done a little math, Rabbi John, when we're ready.
Adam, then Joanne, and then Susan.
Get 192 people will meet our goal.
Adam.
So this is a dumb question, I guess, but what's wrong with, say, an American flag on a postcard?
Sorry, say that
again. Do you have an answer to that?
Well, I think that in some places the American flag has been, seems to be for one political party only. It's not necessarily in every location seen as neutral. So to just avoid any confusion, they just want to be very clearly nonpartisan in every location.
Thanks, Adam. Great answer. Joanne, and then Susan.
So are stamps included in the packet?
No, you need to get postcard stamps, but you can get them online and they mail out very quickly.
Okay.
You can go to the USPS.com.
Okay.
And in the links, if you go to the RAC site, I think we give you a link where they have all the instructions. They even have a link there to go to USPS to get the 14-cent postcard stamps.
So the only thing you have to provide is the stamps.
Yes.
Susan.
Oh, and colored pens. I bought all sorts of colored pens.
How do you want us to inform you? I plan to sign up tonight after we're finished.
Oh, excellent. Good question. Does Nancy want to talk about that?
So I didn't hear the question.
How do you want us to inform you that we've signed up so we're on your list?
Oh, well, in a minute, we're gonna, Diane is gonna ask everybody to commit, and you're gonna put your name in the chat, and then we're gonna follow up with everybody who put their name in the chat.
Okay, so I request, Diane, if you're listening, as the people in my breakout group know, my computer is sometimes working and sometimes not. I got it back on again. If I do not write something, Diane, put me on your list. Because it's going out every 2 minutes.
Thanks, Susan. So we'll make sure, hold on 1 second. We'll make sure to follow up with everyone as well. I promise you, you will see this I hear people get emails from Congregation Beth Am. I don't know if that's true or not, but I promise this will be in some of you will find ways for this to be shared. And many thanks to Ron Friedenthal, who's on this call, and Nancy Cavalonis, who helped create a really easy way so we know how many people are sending postcards. And if you send postcards with an organization that's not the RAC, we want to know that too. That counts. So if you have been sending postcards, with your Kiwanis Club or with your Shema group or with your Little League team, as long as it's nonpartisan, we want to know that as well, because we'll take that. Maybe we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Ron, did you have your hand up?
Quick, we put in our request for the packets. It's going to take between 2 and 3 weeks from what they said, so people should be aware that the packets will take a while. So just build that, order them soon, because there is a time delay on this.
Thanks, Ron. Good feedback. Irene, unmute yourself, Irene.
Got it. Yeah, do you want to count the postcards that have already been written, or do you want to start from now?
Well, we might as well make it a little easier for ourselves. So tell us how many you've already written. So.
I've already written 250.
All right. There you go. So I love it. So thanks, Irene.
Tim beats me, so.
Good. Thank you. So, and that's amazing. I see Vicky on here. I know that she's written a lot with Nancy and Diane. So I know that other people are committed to this. So I really appreciate the wherever you're coming from, and certainly by no means you should invite your friends and everything else. All right, we have time for 1 more question before I give it back to Nancy and Diane.
Sherry Half.
Sherry, unmute yourself, Sherry.
I've been doing this through Ina Bauman through Tim Tate, and we've been ordering the postcards through Amazon Prime, and that we get 100 of them at a time, and it takes 2 or 3 days. So it doesn't, to me, make sense to wait 2 or 3 weeks to get the postcards. And the Avery labels work really well. We'll run them off and 90 to a sheet, and it works, and pasting them in takes no time. And the stamps for 100, the post office charges $1.09 as a tax for that. So that takes a little bit longer. And I think the whole process is much shorter than going through the RAC. Just my own experience.
Right. Thanks, Sherry. Well, there's certainly plenty of ways to be engaged. And so however you want to do it, we'll let people, and I see Tim's on this call too. So, we know people have been engaging in different ways. As a member of the Reform Movement, we've been working with the RAC. And we've been sending a lot with the RAC already. So however you choose to go forward to your friends and family, that's great. Yeah, Nancy C., and then we'll turn it over to Nancy and Diane.
Well, I just want to make Carol asked about pre-printed postcards. So one of the goals of the postcard campaign is to make a personal connection to the person that you are sending the postcard to. So they really do prefer that the postcards be handwritten. However, I would think that if it's hard for you to write by hand for whatever reason, it's probably fine to have pre-printed postcards. But if you can, please try to handwrite them or add some sort of personal touch through the postcards. I hope that answered. Okay.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, Nancy F.
Thanks for everybody for being so engaged and asking such great questions. I can see there's a lot of energy out there and it's very exciting. So now we're going to move on to Diane, and she's going to talk about the action plan and make a call to action.
And I have one question, a challenge to all of us in Beth Am. How many of you believe this is the most important election of your lifetime, perhaps? How many? How many like democracy? The people all have a right to vote. Yay. How many of you today realized a great, good patriot was buried? Congressman John Lewis. How many know that? And he kept saying, one person alone is one person alone. But when we, for civil rights, join together in the most democratic, with a small d action we can take for equality, for all people, whatever their political values and opinions, we all count one, and we all must have everyone vote. His final, I have to read this because I honor this man so much. And his final words that he wrote were, "Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. Voting and participating in the democratic process are the keys to redeeming the soul of America." Do we all believe that? Is this a challenge for Jews, for Beth Am, for Reform Jews? Okay. There's also a second one. How many want to have fun doing justice? I bet Rabbi John believes in this.
Yeah.
With 3 kids, yes, absolutely. We're going to also have Zoom parties. Nancy, with a C, Nancy C, Cavalinos, and myself, we are going to be having Zoom parties on Saturday and Sunday. And how many of you would like to have Zoom parties? Join with friends. Bring along your pets, whatever. Okay, please, in the chat box, if you're going to write postcards, and if you want to do a Zoom, write Zoom after your name, that you want to be in a party or you want to host a party. How does that sound? Is this a challenge that Beth Am rises to? How many do this? Do you think so? Okay, put your name in the chat.
Eileen, Ellen.
Okay, just type your name in the chat if you want to be involved with Zoom parties, and if you're definitely going to be writing postcards. We want to get all the names of all those saying, "I will stand at the barricades of history. I will be there for all the people." How's that sound?
Thank you all. It's great.
Right, Vicky, Tracy, Susie, Susan, Martin, Jean,
Dorothy, Sherry,
Ron,
Joanne, Lisa, Diane. A lot of Beth Am women are in that list.
Yay.
Susan, Alan, Carol,
We already
Eileen.
We already have commitments from Batty and the Orchard, so it's great, exciting about those levels.
And Nancy Cavalonis and I have already pledged she's going to be doing Saturday afternoons sometimes, and I will be doing Sundays 2 to 4, beginning the 2nd week of August. So we want to get people a chance to get their supplies together, and then we start. How does that sound? Okay. And we have other things happening, and thank you all. And as the League of Women Voters say, democracy is not a spectator sport. It's the most powerful thing we can do. It is like giving everyone a complete being the right to vote and determine their own future. We have some exciting things that's going to be happening on October 11th. The Palo Alto League of Women Voters will be having, with Beth Am community, Pros and cons on the propositions. There are 4 that seem to be really gaining a lot of interest. Number 1 is Proposition 15, which is about revising the original Proposition 13 to raise about from 5% of commercial properties, $12 to $14 billion a year, which will go half to the communities approximately and half to the schools. And this will be basically based upon the current rate for commercial properties. It will not affect renters. It will not affect homeowners. It will not affect people in nursing homes or senior living. Then you have Proposition 16. There's these 4 had a lot of reaction. This one repeals Proposition 209. I still remember my students being very upset with this Proposition 209. Anyway, this one, Proposition 16, allows affirmative action in all state actions and government actions involving university programs and contracts, all state programs. It allows affirmative action. Then there's Proposition 17, who would allow people who have served time for a felony the right to vote if they are on the parole. This has not been spelled out strongly, and this will make it so. Proposition 20 is also very controversial. It repeals large parts of the criminal justice reform measures that were designed and passed to reduce prison populations. Proposition 20 would limit parole and would turn some misdemeanors now into felonies. So that is coming up October 11th, Beth Arm and the Palo Alto League of Women Voters via Zoom program. Then we have October 4th, the IAF, the Industrial Affairs Foundation, and our own Beth Arm Silicon Valley Sponsoring Committee, headed up by Charlie Rothschild, will be having a state senator debate for our area at 3 p.m. that will be again on Zoom. The IAF is an organizing group for local issues, whether it be housing, education, fair wages, whatever. Then we have August 24th and 25th. Chris Witzel, who is a national board member of the National Voter Corps, will be having a film that people will watch beforehand, and they'll have a film discussion that will be Zoomed on for Beth Arm congregation. The film was called Rigged, the Voter Suppression Playbook. It goes through and shows in details 10 techniques. Extremely good. I recommend it as well. Very excellent films. So she's going to be leading a discussion. This is all nonpartisan. It is looking at the issue of how we make certain that everyone, regardless of the political opinion, has the right to vote. We are all equal. And that is what's sponsoring everything we're doing in the area of social justice under the leadership of Rabbi John. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. We'll make sure that we give you all the information. You'll see that in emails. We'll send a follow-up with all of those dates. This is a larger strategy as part of the Beth Arm voter engagement throughout the fall that we're excited that you're part of. If you have any other ideas or thoughts or comments, we'll ask you to reach out to Michaela or Diane or Nancy or myself. You'll certainly hear from us. To respond to Alan's comment, we are also working with the Religious Action Center of California on some of their work, and we'll be sure to update on that as well. And, you know, of course, we want everyone who's possible to vote. So we'll give it to Nancy to take us home tonight. So.
Do you want to answer? It looks like Rick Rose has a question.
Rick, do you have a question?
No, I don't know how that happened.
All right. That's the best question I've ever got, Rick. So there you go.
Let's give a shout out to Rick. Hi, Rick. One of the things we'll be sending you is ways to take action now. If you're anxious to get started and you're waiting for your postcards and you've decided the first time maybe you want to do it with the rack kit, we've got a list that I believe Nancy put the link in the chat, and we'll also put it on the website with some things to do. The first one you've already done, which is you've checked your voter registration. There's some letters that the RAC is asking us to sign or send, and you can easily do it through the website, and we've got the links in there to help encourage the Senate to pass their version of the now called John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would restore some of the voting right protections that were taken away by the Supreme Court. There's also some work to expand the CARES Act to send more money to help fund elections, particularly when it's going to have more overhead with the more mail-in ballots. Then there's other ways you can work to combat voter suppression besides the postcards. There's phone banking and there's texting, again through the Reclaim Our Vote group. So we'll give you some information about that because that's something you might be able to start with while you're waiting for your postcards. And finally, if you feel you're able, you might want to contribute to the RAC to help them support this campaign. When they send out the postcards, they ask people for a donation to cover the expenses, but they'll send it even if you don't donate. So if you feel you can, maybe you can help sponsor someone else. So unless we have other questions, I think there are other questions? Otherwise we'll wrap up early.
I just wanted to share that Alan did some great math and said if 193 Beth-Am members each send 30 postcards, we'll get to our goal. And I did a little bit more math, and if each of us finds 5 people to send 30 postcards, we'll get to our goal. So
excellent.
Either you send 30 and you find 5 friends to send 30, or we're gonna have to send a lot ourselves. So gather some friends, invite them to a Zoom party, share with them what you learned tonight.
Susan, is that a question?
I was wondering, what's the total goal for the RAC? How many postcards do they want? Are they aiming to have sent?
I don't know. Michaela, do you know? No.
I've heard a number before, but I was looking for it before tonight and I couldn't track it down. If we find it, I will find it for you. But it was in the millions range.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes, because they're sending postcards now. They're doing a lot of work through the various states as they go through their primary seasons. And they're just starting in some states to get people ready for the September election. So they're going to keep for the November election. So they're going to keep postcarding right up to the election. So we've got many months left.
Just out of curiosity, will there be postcards, texts, and phone calls to the same people, to different people?
I think they're moving states. Like I did, like Nancy, North Carolina, and I was on a call that said now they're moving toward Texas. So depending on when the election is for the primaries, they're moving along with that. And I know there was a call yesterday from the RAC where they were helping call in Missouri because there was an election, I think today, on expanding Medicare. So the RAC is also involved with the texting and the phoning. So there's a lot of work to do. There isn't, I think, a specific number. It's just the November election. Are there any other questions?
Norma, is that a question?
Sorry, yes, I have a question for Nancy and everybody. Do you think that people would benefit and be interested in watching one of Andrea Miller's wonderful videos or a snippet thereof? Because it explains a lot of how she goes about everything, and her personality is unbelievably contagious.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I found her very impressive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea. We'll look into putting some of those links on the website if people would like to see something inspiring, because she is very inspiring and they're very analytical too. Her group, Center for Common Ground, not only leads these programs, but they're also a technology organization, and they've
Correct.
created applications to help you. So for example, when you text, you're not using your phone. And when you call, you're not using your phone. They've got applications through the computer.
Yeah.
So they're extremely good, and they also collect data. So they're analytical and they can tell you the results of their campaigns. So they're very worthy of our support. Thanks, that's a good suggestion.
Thanks, Norma.
So as we said, thanks so much for coming and bringing all your energy and commitment. We'll follow up to all of you with an email reiterating all the links and everything that we've talked about tonight. Please let us know what you're doing, what your groups are doing, so we can try to coordinate as much as possible. Please send us your ideas for things we could do, how we could help you. If you have actions or events, nonpartisan action or events that we could work on with you, we would love to expand it and keep having more things happen at Beth Am. So thanks for joining us. And thanks for, oh, I'm sorry, Susan.
Right. So 2 years ago, I hosted with about 6 other co-hosts a briefing where we invited 5 nonprofits that are all about getting out the vote. So we're going to be doing it again, probably sometime in the 1st or 2nd week of September. We're just starting to get organized. It's not, it's just a group of friends, but we're hoping to be more expansive this time, since it doesn't matter how many people we have. It's not constrained by a house's capacity. So I will be happy to share that with you, but who's the you?
Susan, you can share that with me and I'll make sure I get to all the right.
That's wonderful.
Great.
Thank you, Susan. That's a great idea.
Thanks. And listen, and that's just to that point. If anybody has ideas or brainstorms or thoughts, you know, please reach out. If you don't know other people, you can reach out to me and I can forward your email or your questions to whoever's the right person. So don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time. So Nancy, I didn't want to cut you off if you had nice last words. So.
Well, I did. I just wanted to thank everybody for improving my mood, because I was very sad today seeing the John Lewis funeral, but I really feel that we're all working together to mend the world as he would approve. And so I thank you very much for joining us, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.